There we go. Welcome, BFT, to our hangout on sex, dating, and relationships in the Bahamas. We have a very awesome panel lined up for you today. As some of you may or may not, I'm Natalia. I live in the Netherlands. I grew up in the Bahamas. I'm a student now here, and I'm currently doing my internship. I have been in a relationship with Anthony, which you all also might know, for 8 years now. So I might not be the best person for this hangout. However, I have proven myself objective, and I will bring out the hard questions. Now, let me introduce you to the panel. We have Steven joining us for the first time today. Welcome!
Yay!
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Steven.
Well, good morning. I think it should be that time again. Once again, Steven. I am 24 years old. I'm currently a member of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, serving as the navigation officer on HMDS Legnum Mighty. Been on the job for 5 years now. Been in this group for, I think, less than a year now. Has shown me a lot of things that I haven't seen on most side of this country. So they told me be here for this time, so I'm just going to do whatever they say.
And what's your relationship status, Steven?
As it stands right now, I am in a relationship. Well, I've been bullied into a relationship, but for the better part of 6 months.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Okay, next we're going to introduce Anissa, who is also joining us on our Hangouts for the first time. Welcome.
Yay!
Let's hear a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is, Facebook Anissa. My government name is Ann Wilson. I am in my early 40s. I work as a paralegal / legal secretary at the Office of the Attorney General. I am currently a law student as well at the University of London online. So in the very near future, hopefully I'll be practicing law somewhere. What else?
Currently, your relationship status?
Oh God, that is so complicated. Single.
Okay. That doesn't sound complicated. I'm sure we'll hear more about that in a bit. And our final panelist, last but not least, we have Clarice, our resident satanic entity, also joining us for her first hangout. Welcome, Clarice.
Yay!
With special guest appearance from a keeper. Oh God, I hate talking about myself. I am 22. I live in Freeport. My whole life pretty much revolves around fitness in the gym. I work in a supplement store similar to GNC, and I just help people, with finding protein, nutritional advice, finding good trainers, blah, blah, blah. And when I'm done with that, I go to the gym for like 2 hours every night because what else is there to do? Obviously, I'm in a relationship with that guy, that lucky guy. And I also.
How long have you been in a relationship?
We've been dating for, I'd say, a little over a year. Yeah. And yeah, I model part-time, and I like to sleep, and I like food.
Basically my life story. Sleep and food.
And
okay. Cats. I also see puppies on your Snapchat. So.
Yes.
Anyways, guys, to get the conversation started, I'm going to ask a very simple and very general question. And just so that we're not jumping all over each other, I'll start with Steven. When you think of dating in the Bahamas or relationships in the Bahamas, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Oh God.
Okay.
Well, basically, when you say a relationship, you would just think, well, just two people trying to get to know each other. I don't really know what the goal for most people would be nowadays. But for me, basically, is trying to find somebody that you would feel be comfortable to getting married to. Some people aren't interested in the concept of marriage and shit like that. But me, like you was just somebody was just saying earlier, because I think I grew up under such conservative mindset that anytime that you're in a relationship, the goal should be to get married. So that's just me. So anytime that I get inside a relationship or I start talking, you start asking the question, does this person have the qualities to make them a viable candidate for you to marry? Now, that's just for me. I may not know, I can't speak for everybody else, but that's just for me.
So you feel like the only purpose of dating or relationships is with the end goal of being married to somebody?
Yeah, personally, because it just, yeah, basically.
Okay. And then just as a side question from that then, so you get married, and then what's the end goal of that relationship? You're already married. Is that it?
That's where it goes to the next part of it. It moves on to the next part. I'm pretty sure everybody accepts vows at their wedding, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Well,
when you accept the vow, I think the natural, I don't know, the normal ones would be, do you happen to love, to hold, to cherish, to take care in sickness and in health? That brings upon a new challenge now, that how do you overcome life hurdles while promising to be faithful to this person or promising to be, because the challenge is going to come every day to say, well, maybe I shouldn't be the best person that I promised that I would be at that date. So personally, when you decide to get married, then it takes on a whole nother set of challenges, not to betray the vows that you promised to somebody.
okay. So I see that Clarice here has something to say about that. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with Steven, but to the extent that I think that if you're entering a relationship with someone, you can make it basically anything you want. So if you are the type of person like Steven who you think that you should be in a relationship with the end goal being marriage, then you should also make it clear to your partner that that's what you're looking for, and then they would be able to say, yes, I am also that type of person. However, I think that if two people want to enter a relationship just simply with the goal of having fun, or even, let's get really crazy here, even if they get into a relationship and say, oh, we want to do orgies together every weekend, and that you define that as the parameters of your relationship, then I don't see what the problem is with it. I think the only thing that you should be concerned about in a relationship is that the both of you are always on the same page.
Okay.
With where you want to go.
I personally tend to agree with you on that. I just want to bring it back to something that Steven said, and it's like, okay, so the end goal of any given relationship is marriage. You mentioned that you have been bullied into a relationship. Do you see yourself marrying this girl?
As it stands, I haven't really spent that much time to be able to make that decision, right? Spend that much time. You only through taking time and getting to know somebody, getting to their likes, their dislikes, what you compare to, and how do you two are compatible for each other to be able to say, well, yeah, this is a viable candidate. And it usually doesn't come for me until at least 18 months down the line.
18 months down the line. So what are you doing then? What are you doing then in the meantime to find out whether this is the person that you want to marry? Because like you said, if the end goal is marriage, if the whole point of the relationship is marriage, then the relationship must be about finding out whether this is the candidate or not.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, it's just how would you get inside any relationship makes you see, just through talking, through going out, through finding out what their likes is, what their dislikes is, how it compares to yours. Now, for instance, you may be a person that may say, well, I like going out most of the time. I like going out, and I like doing these type of things. I like going out, I like partying, I like drinking, I like doing all these things. Now, the person that you may want to get married to or get in a relationship with, they may not be that person. So you can say, well, I can be able to put up with that for a certain amount of time. But after a year goes by, after 18 months goes by, then you realize maybe I cannot, because it usually comes till after the honeymoon phase of being in a relationship that you start to see the real person. At the beginning of a relationship, you never see the real person. You see an ambassador. So, somebody's going to put on the best front for you to say, well, yeah, she or he's a good person. So I would say that usually until later down the line, that's when you start to see the person. Well, when you're comfortable, when the makeup comes off, when the hair isn't as shape up as it's supposed to be. When the money problems start coming in, that's when you start to say, well, make that decision. Maybe this person may not be the best person of all. Maybe they are. You see?
I don't agree with that at all. At all. I think in traditional Bahamian society, yes, that is the case because that's how a lot of us are raised. That's how a lot of us have seen relationships to be. You have to make yourself look perfect and then gradually get rid of all of those layers. But I think with the rise of the millennial generation, we're doing things a little differently. It's either, and I know this is the case for me, either you take me as I am, or you can go, basically.
So, Anissa, what do you think about this? What do you think about the goals of relationships, or just in general Bahamian society? Do you agree more with what Stephen has to say, or do you have a different viewpoint?
Well, I understand, Stephen. I understand what you're saying, but because I have been married before, and all of that traditional stuff, yeah, but you can't take that into a marriage and expect for a relationship to survive. And really, right now, at this point in my life, I don't think traditionally about dating and about relationships. And I don't think it takes 18 months to get to know someone and then you want to marry them, or you're forced to marry them because of what you believe. A relationship is between two persons. Whatever you two decide, that makes your relationship. It doesn't matter about those traditions. That's what we're trying to, break out of. That traditional stuff, it was good for then, but, Stephen, it's 2016. Come on. It doesn't take 18 months to get to know this girl. And if she's bullying you now, and that's how you feel, you're saying that she bullied you into a relationship. That's not a good thing. And have you spoken to her about this? Really, Stephen?
But the irony in it all is, you say you're in your 40s, and Stephen, I don't know how old you are, but you can't be more than 30. It's really ironic to me how Anissa, she's so much older than you are, and she's like, come on, Stephen, it's 2016, get with it, bro.
To be very fair, we all develop at different stages, and we've all been raised in very, very different backgrounds, and we've all come to BFT or whatever it is that is opening up our minds at different points in time. So we can't say based on age, because we've learned, especially in BFT, that age is nothing but a number, especially when it comes to the way that we think. So I don't want to get down too much into that line. We're still all trying to figure out ourselves until the day we die. So it's not really, in my opinion, a fair point to, kind of give Stephen some shit about that. I do think it's fair to give him some shit about some of the things that he said about being bullied into a relationship, though, because, hey, there's nobody putting a gun to your head.
Exactly.
Stephen,
Okay.
Let me ask you. Can I ask Stephen a question?
Of course, go ahead.
Stephen, you grew up in a religious home, right?
Yeah, very religious.
Your mother or father is a pastor. Which one?
Not per se my mother and father. I grew up, let's put it like this. At the time that I was born, I had older brothers that were already 30 years old. So when my father passed away, they took me on as their children. That's one of their kids, and I was raised one of those, okay? I don't know if many of the people inside who live in Freeport would know Marvin and Kyle Leach. These are two bishops that have their own church and stuff like that. So I grew up under that.
Do you have a brother or a cousin named Kyrie?
Yes.
I went to school with him.
Yeah, Kyrie's father.
He's in the States now, right?
Yeah, Kyrie's father is my brother.
Okay, small world. I went to junior high school with him.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, who was the? I mean, you grew up. So you grew up with your brothers and their
Mm-hmm.
wives, or your mother
No, I grew up with
primarily,
my brother and their wives.
and their wives, and they were pastors.
Mm-hmm. Still on.
Because it sounds like, some female was the dominant person, and you kind of like that. You
Never,
like that. You like
never.
that aggressive woman. You know what I mean? Or maybe you're suppressing that, but that's what it seemed like.
Never.
If you know how your face lit up when you said, I was bullied into a relationship.
That's something
You,
I
you,
wanted
you
to
know.
say too. When he said, "Oh, I was bullied into a relationship," I'm thinking, "No, you weren't bullied. You liked it.
Yes,
No,
yes,
you
yes.
liked it."
Oh my God.
He's just saying that he
Uh,
got bullied to kind of like, take some of the responsibility and the blame off it. Oh, I had nothing to do with it. She bullied me.
Yes,
You liked it.
yeah,
You liked it.
yeah, yeah. That
oh
bully was the key word. Now I know. Okay, got you.
Oh, but I know. To be honest, I love my two brothers the absolute death. They're the ones who taught me everything, mostly everything that I know. Now, some of the religious stuff they went a little bit too far off the deep end with, and like I say, it's their life and it was their house. You gotta respect their house and their rules because But like I said, I grew up under them, and these are the ones who taught me, man. Listen, this is what a man's supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to do. This is why do you do it. You see? Now, after I moved out the house and I basically started my service in the BDF Defense Force, I became more open to things that they might have not shown me. They might have not shown me, but at the end of the day, I can't ever say, well, these people taught me wrong. They might have taught some things that weren't necessary, but I could never say it was wrong.
No,
you know?
because no, apparently you liked that bullying in some way, and so you found that in this nice little girl. I'm happy for you though. You know, that could be
I think
something.
it might even come a
Still,
little bit back to Sigmund Freud. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Sigmund Freud and his research into human sexuality, but it sounds a little bit like something, they say all women, he said all women, oh gosh, are in some way sexually attracted to their father, and then in some way all men are sexually attracted to their mother. I don't know if you've ever read any of Freud's work. I think he said something like that. That's kind of
It's,
like what it sounds like to me with
I'm telling you,
men.
if you look at it, if you look at people's
Oh
history,
gosh.
if you look at people's history, you would find out that as weird as it may seem, it is the damn truth. I mean, if I tell you guys would be, I mean, it would shock you. But from my own experience, I look for people like my dad. That's that. I'm not saying he was the best person, but that's what I'm attracted to.
I'm trying to
You
look
know.
to find the right name for it because it's gonna bother me if I can't say what it's called.
Okay. Let's rein the conversation back a little bit. And since we're talking about dating, and you bring up the point that we tend to date our parents, which, as weird as it might be, we can all find some elements of it. For me personally, it's not even my biological father, but I see a lot of traits from the man that raised me being something that I end up gravitating towards. So I can understand that. But how do you think that affects us in other aspects of our relationship? Like, how can we possibly be looking for our parents in the person that we're trying to have sex with?
For me personally, I would kind of question it because I don't think I ever had any distinct father figure in my life, biological or otherwise. So as far as that goes, I would have to question myself to even wonder if it would apply because I can't say I could think of any particular trait that any of the men, father figures who have been in my life that they had that I would say that I would look for in a partner. That would be something I'd have to do some deep in research into myself to try and figure out. So yeah.
Well, for me, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing or even a bad thing, but I know it happens. I look for people for well, in cases of men, I look for that dominant man, who is, he makes a decision and he follows through with his decision, whether he's right or wrong. He makes this decision. Um, in the case of a female, if I'm dating a female, I feel the same way. I look for someone who's more aggressive on the outside, not in bed.
Do you think that
So,
that's something that is that permeates Bahamian society in general? Like in Bahamian society, what is the ideal man or the ideal woman? Do you think that there is a norm that exists? Do you think that there's the perfect man as far as the Bahamas is concerned, or the perfect woman?
I think there is,
maybe,
Let's
but
hear from Clarice.
I wouldn't say that I agree with it. I think there is. I think for typical Bahamians, it would be a more aggressive man, a little bit more of an in charge type of man. Just basically, and then the women would be more submissive and more quiet, both in bed and out of bed, because that would be what would follow, like traditional church views. Women are to be seen and not heard, and the men are supposed to be the head of the family. So I would say that that would be, for typical Bahamians, that would be the ideal.
What do you think, Anissa?
well, I kind of agree with her. It's the truth. It's what, it's how we were raised. So
What
I
What do
agree
you
with
think,
Clary.
Stephen?
Well, I guess I could kind of agree with something like that. Agree with something like that.
What about the perfect woman? What do you think the Bahamas would say the perfect woman is, as far as
Like I say,
relationships are concerned?
I guess like I can say, I can't speak for everybody else. I only can speak for what I know and what I've been taught to look for inside of a person. Now,
You mean for
like they say,
Bahamians?
when I was raised, there are certain principles that you always look for. My father used to tell me that there are always certain principles that you look for within a person. You look for a person that's honest. You look for a person that's smart. You just a person that has dignity. These honest, smart. These are like some people say, well, these are usually Christian principles, right? But if a person doesn't really subscribe to the faith, that doesn't not make them a smart person. It doesn't not make them an honest person. That doesn't not make them a fair person. You see?
Okay, but
But
let's talk about some different aspects, because smart, honest, dignity, these are things that could apply to anybody.
any
Now
yeah,
we're talking about the perfect woman. Is she supposed to be submissive? Is she supposed to be quiet? What is she supposed to be like in the house? How is she supposed to be in bed?
I mean, these things are more interchangeable than the actual principles themselves. You see, you can have a person that's more aggressive. There's a person that's more a woman that's more aggressive. That's more more man-like. But as long as she has the principles that you find yourself to be, well, this makes a good woman. A person doesn't necessarily have to fit the role of what you want them to be. You can have a loud, brash, abrasive woman, and then at the same time, if they're honest in everything that they're saying, if they have the
Okay,
ability to correct themselves when they're wrong, or they can
but
be submissive.
I'm talking about sexuality now. The
God,
perfect
this is something
woman,
like
what is the perfect woman like in bed is what I'm saying. Does the perfect woman submit to every one of your desires, or does the perfect woman hold back and say, I will only do these holy things? Does the perfect woman give you head?
Uh-oh.
Can I,
again.
Natalia,
Yes,
can
I'm
I say
listening.
something with that?
Yeah, of course, jump in.
Okay, so I told you, I was married before. I got married, I
Yeah.
think, when I was 20. And during our marriage, my ex-husband, his father was a pastor, so that was very religious. He didn't believe in giving his wife giving him head. That was not something he was about. I begged him. I remember begging him one night, and he was like, "No, my wife is not gonna go down on me. That's not something my wife does." So as his girlfriend, I could do it, but as his wife, it was a no-no. Yeah, I see that face. Yeah.
I need to take several seats after that.
Oh,
Seriously.
wow.
Yeah, and well, a lot of things like it was missionary only because, of course, he didn't want his wife to behave in, that manner. So it was, yeah.
Stephen, what do you think about this? Would you tend to agree with anything that Anissa's ex-husband believed in?
No, not in the slightest. Not in the slightest.
So,
not even the closest thing.
are you willing to answer my question now, then?
Well, basically what I can say is like everybody's sexual appetite is completely different from one another. So that's something that you have to decide from, I would say, before that you get married. Because you can't decide, well, you have to decide something that's married. If you decide, well, you make a stance as this is what I want when I'm inside bed, because I don't know, but most people would. Me personally, I don't usually connect sexuality and relationship because you could have sex with basically anybody that agrees to say yes to you, but and then you could just frame it in a way that's comfortable for the both of you. But in a relationship, there's a difference. You can't be in a relationship with everybody. You can't be in a relationship with everybody, but you could have sex with everybody who you want. So it kind of depends on the person. It just kind of depends on the person.
But what I was asking you about was what Anissa said, that there were certain expectations of what a girlfriend could do, but once she turned into a wife, it was something else. Do you feel the same way?
No, not even close. Not even close. If everything that me personally I would want from a girlfriend would obviously translate over to what I want from a wife. So if you want a wife that is give you head, if you want a girlfriend that is give you head, why would you consider her to be your wife if you don't want her to do it? If you want her to stop, But like I say, it's different for everybody else. I can't speak for everybody.
Clarice, in your experience with dating, maybe not just Akeem, but including Akeem, do you feel like Bahamian men have a certain expectation of what women are supposed to or not supposed to do sexually?
I do think so. I can say with Akeem, though, he would definitely be the exception, which is probably why he's made it this far with me. but yeah, especially as a young person dating, I find that a lot of Bahamian men, not even just my age, but any age, they have this thing where they like to see women be sexy, and they like to see women talk dirty, and they like to see women, like give head and, all of that stuff, but only on certain terms. So like how I just don't like clothes. And they see me out and I'm wearing what I want to wear. Oh, and they'll compliment me, but all of a sudden if I'm your girlfriend, I can't do that anymore. So you liked it when I wasn't your girlfriend. But now that I'm your girlfriend, you're trying to tell me what to do. And I think that's another big issue. A lot of Bahamian men have like an ownership complex when it comes to women.
Yep.
And I think that's something that I hope that over time we as a society can change, because it kind of goes back to the slave mentality. Why do I have to be owned? I'm not a piece of property. I would be your partner. I would be your equal. That's how I see a relationship working. It wouldn't be necessarily that, well, okay, let me see how I can put this.
Hold on. Clarice, I have a question then about the ownership complex, because that's something that I can really recognize, especially from, growing up there and seeing how people act in relationships. Wouldn't you say, though, that also goes the other way around, that women act like they own their men that they're with?
Yeah, and I think it's as a direct result of, I don't want to say it's because of it's the men's attitudes, but it's basically like a tit for tat kind of thing. Like, oh, if you own me, then I have to own you back.
Yeah.
It's basically to kind of make the playing field feel a little bit more even, because women are put at such a sexual, emotional, just a society-wise at a disadvantage. We have to kind of feel like, oh, we have to, you know, do something to make ourselves feel like, oh, we got a little something at least, you know?
But here's where I think a little bit of the, not a little bit, a lot of the imbalance and the double standards come in. Men can openly and fully own women, but the moment that the woman in the relationships tries to tell the man what to do or what not to do, it's controlling. Why? Why is this? Steven, can you give me a little bit of insight into that? Because, I mean, as a man, you might have expectations of what your woman is supposed to do or wear or say in public, but if a woman even thinks about saying this to her man, she's a controlling and a nagging bitch. Why?
You go to rephrase that question again.
Think about it, Steven. I have something I'm going to say while you think. After that, I think that the result of that, where when women decide they want to own men back and men don't like it, I think that's where traditional Bahamian society and this new hookup culture that we have, I think that when those two things mix, that's the result, and it's ugly. Certain societies, I think, you know, would mix well with the hookup culture because they're a little bit more open-minded and a little bit more able to handle, you know, something like that. But Bahamian society, which is so traditional and so in the dark and so undercover about stuff like that, I don't think that we can really handle the effects of this new hookup culture that's been coming to us because, you know, we like everything that the United States does.
Yeah, but is it really new to the Bahamas? Because, for example, the Bahamas has one of the highest instances of HIV in the world. That means that people in the Bahamas are fucking. They're fucking left, they're fucking right, and they fucking center. So it's not really new, this hookup culture. We have the Thai snap culture.
Natalia, you know why? Because the HIV,
Anissa, let's hear you.
The HIV epidemic, it's because we're fucking and we're lying about fucking. That's why. We're lying about who we fucking, how much we fucking. And that's a culture of you keeping your business to yourself. We've learned that from our parents and our grandparents, that you keep your business to yourself. This new generation don't give a fuck about that. They don't care about keeping it to themselves anymore. They've seen their parents hurt because of keeping it to themselves. So they're saying, the hell with that. I'm going to do what I want when I want to do it.
So, in your opinion, then, is the hookup culture a positive direction?
I think
I think the openness of it could be beneficial because like it's no longer, oh, I'm doing this on the low and I'm doing that on the low. It's like, no, I'm fucking you, I'm fucking you, I'm fucking the next one. Do you have a fucking problem with it?
Yes, and I think it's for a positive. It's positive because listen, I tell my sons, I have a 20-year-old and I have a 23-year-old.
Pause. What? What? Okay, continue. I had to have my freak out moment. Go on.
And I encourage that. I encourage, you know, not getting into, and I'm sorry, but, you know, these girls want to meet mama, and mama's going to tell you, baby girl, if you're looking for a husband, this is not the one at the time. They're fucking. That's what they want to do. I encourage that. I don't encourage what I did. Out of school, look for a husband, get married, have children, stay in the church. Praise God. So I've learned from that generation. So I'm not teaching my sons what I've been taught because it was not good then and it's not good now to keep yourself holy for marriage. Really now? I kept myself holy for knowing how to suck dick. So, yeah.
But we have to realize that you are the exception to the rule, and you're the new direction that we're going in. As far as the hookup culture, you're the supportive mother that is supporting openness and conversation, and this is the kind of attitude that will reduce the instances of HIV. But we're not there yet. The Bahamas.
But even me, I'm doing it. I mean, if I want to, Not with guys, though.
But we're not there yet. I think that we're still dealing with a culture that is stuck somewhere between the 50s and the 80s, where they want to fuck, but they don't want to talk about it. They want to be in church, and the women want to be pure, but at the same time, they want to have their cake and eat it too. How do we resolve this? How do we compromise with this? How do we move forward and tell kids, okay, we know you're fucking, do it right, protect yourself, don't lie about it, and it's okay. What is the steps?
Well, it's actually ironic that you brought that up because I'm actually supposed to be starting a youth group at the local YMCA here, or restarting it at least. And a big goal that we're going to have in starting this group is creating more of an openness and a frankness when it comes to talking about sex, being safe, birth control, teenage pregnancy, stuff like that. I think a big part of it in the Bahamas is there's so much stigma and so much negativity associated with sex. And I think as a young adult in the Bahamas, I think what we need to do is just get over it, basically. We need to get over it. We need to teach our kids, yes, it's okay. Sex feels good. Sex is fun. But you need to be safe. You need to think about yourself in the long run. How is it going to affect your future? There's nothing wrong with sex, but make sure that you're protecting yourself at the end of the day. Don't make it happen.
Steven, I see you making a face. Do you agree with this? Do you agree that it's okay it's okay and important to teach young people that sex is okay, sex is natural, it feels good, do it, but do it safely?
I would say one thing is this. I don't know if any of you have ever watched a boxing fight before, right? But usually before the start of a match, the ref comes between the two fighters and say one thing for sure. The first rule at all times is to protect yourself. Is to protect yourself. Okay? Protect yourself at all times. You can't. So that's the number one thing I would try to at least admonish towards anybody. It's just basically educating people about it. Now, what a person chooses or what they find valuable inside sex is for them to decide. But the only thing I would say a society should be able to give towards somebody is just the tools to protect yourself. That's all.
Okay.
Now,
okay, but that wasn't what I was asking. Now we're talking about young people. We're talking about preteens and teenagers that will get into this if they haven't already. Is it the right thing to do to go to teenagers or pre-teenagers or even 10-year-olds and say, look, this is what's coming and this is how you deal with it?
I don't think you need to actively seek it, but I think if as a child they're curious about it, don't be like, oh my God, you're not supposed to know about those things. Answer them frankly. Don't make a big deal out of it, because if you make it a big deal, then they're gonna think it's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, I didn't introduce it to my sons. They came to me. They asked me about things. They heard about things. They came and they asked me, and I told them.
But do you think that the general Bahamian child can come to their parent and say, look, I've been hearing this, I've been seeing this, I've been hearing about raw doggy and back shots, Mom, what does this mean and how do I deal with this? I mean, honestly, that is highly unrealistic for general Bahamian society.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, your kids are not going to come to you and say, Mommy, what? They're going to ask you general questions, and it's your job to be honest with them or to hide some things from them, because they're going to find out anyway. I remember my son coming to me, I think probably maybe at 11, and asking me, Mommy, what is sex? And I said, I think I told him, and he, hold on, sorry. I told him he was too young, and he said, Mommy, that's okay. I'll just go look it up on the computer.
Take that.
It is what it is, and that's what happens more and more.
That's right. So I realized either I tell him or he go and learn another way, and I want to show him, I want to tell him my way, because like I tell them, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie to you when it comes to sex. So if you want to know, you ask. But I was not brought up in a home where I was taught to ask. And not because you were brought up one way, you should teach that to your kids. It was taboo to talk about sex. I remember maybe at age 12, I said the word pregnant. I don't know where that slop came from, but the blood was followed. I was not taught to be open about sex, but I realized that it hurt me growing up. It hurt me with no one telling me and me not asking questions because I thought it was taboo and wrong. It is up to the parents to be parents. And if, all parents are not going to be parents, but if you come in contact with someone who's asking you questions, it's your duty to answer them in the night. But, we need parents who can't help them.
I want to say something about that, though, because we have to realize that in the Bahamas, there's multiple factors that are coming into this conversation. We're not just dealing with parents who aren't parents, which is, quite a bit, but we also have to realize that the Bahamas as a whole has a very low education level. For how many years now has the average been a D minus or a D or even a D plus for people that are graduating? And these are the ones that are graduating. How many people are dropping out? And these are the people that are having 2, 3, 4 children before they're 25. These are the people that are becoming parents. At some point, society as a whole has to take responsibility for the parenting that is not happening. That's why when I said we got to start teaching them from when they're 10, even if that's already a little bit late, because these children are growing up in households watching mommy shaking her ass in front of the camera, and going out for Thai snack and doing whatnot for a couple drinks at the club. So this is something that has to come from society as a whole. That's why I said, like somebody said, maybe 10 is too young or we don't have to actually actively pursue it. I think we do have to actively pursue it. As the responsible, intelligent adults that we are, we have to go out there and say to the community, look, this is an epidemic. And it's not going to get fixed because the people that are creating these children and perpetuating the circle themselves don't know how to deal with it. How many girls do I know with 5 kids and say, oh, okay, well, I'll just date a drug dealer because he's going to pay for the other ones? Like, this is the culture that we're dealing with now, and this is the sex culture. They're just going to have another baby so that somebody else can pay for it, and then these are the people that are teaching their children. They're not teaching their children about sex, but they're obviously having it.
I think it's a combination of 3 things.
Yeah.
I think it's an education thing. It's definitely a self-esteem and a body issue thing. And it's also a parenting thing. And I think gradually these things will change because our generation is becoming more open. But it needs to happen a little faster because I have a 14-year-old boy. He calls me his older sister. And he'll come and he'll sit in with me at work sometimes. And the things that I see that they talk about in these WhatsApp group chats and the videos he's shown me, I honestly, I've never thought of doing those things until I was like 17, 18. Like, he's actually shown me a video of this little girl. I think she was in like grade 8. And these boys who were about her same age were running a train on her in the video. It's disturbing, the things that these 14-year-old kids are into. And I appreciate him being comfortable enough to show me something like that, but at the same time, it's like, wow.
Clarice, we also, this is a culture of, we have a lot of children that were molested by fathers, uncles, brothers, cousins, next door neighbors.
Yep.
And these children, I for one was one of those that was molested by my father, my sister and I. And a few things happens to people like us. We either become very promiscuous, like that girl in the video.
Mm-hmm.
We either become very withdrawn from both sexes, or we hate one sex and turn to another sex.
Yep.
It's something that people have no idea how that destroys a kid and their life.
Yep.
You don't know what happened. People don't know what happened to that 8-year-old girl, but they're going to say that, she's a bad girl, or you don't know what
But
happened to her. She
they're
didn't
not
come
telling
out that way.
the person who molested her or who even mentally abused her. But I think what was most disturbing about him showing me that video is he'll show me stuff like that of that was the most extreme one, but he'll show me like pictures of girls his age dancing or sending pictures of their vaginas and stuff, and he'll be like, oh my gosh, all these young girls my age, they hoes, they sluts, they this, the next thing. And I keep telling him, but you're encouraging them to do this.
Yeah.
And I tell him, as a young man, if you're complaining about all of these girls being bad or being promiscuous, then you need to teach them to respect themselves. I tell him, if they're not going to respect them, you at the very least need to do that, because obviously no other guy in their life is showing them, okay, sweetie, yes, it's your body, yes, you can do what you want with it, but at the same time, you need to value yourself.
Okay, we're losing Steven a little bit here. Steven, do you have any thoughts on these topics? For you, okay, let's talk about you growing up. When you were a teenager, when you were coming into the age of sex and hooking up and girlfriends and dating, did you go to your parents for information?
Well, basically, no. I did not go to them because they had a real strict law. I remember the first time I actually bought a condom because I actually was contemplating and thinking about, well, maybe I should. And
do you mind telling us how old you were?
At the time, I was about 15. I think it was about 15. And basically, when I actually had the condom, I left it, and he went through the room and found the condom, and he was like, nope, nope, nope. Just basically the whole shut down, no. So I just knew from that stop, this is not the person to come to. This is not the person to come to. So basically, when I was starting to learn about sex was usually around like the 8th and 9th grade. That's when I think my school started to learn more about health science and general sexual education and, how to these things. And that's where I was able to properly say, well, what to do in these cases, what to do in this case, what to do in these situations. But from the time then, he always said that. And basically from that point on, I've never really had that situation whereby I felt that I had to do something to prove myself towards people, you see? But I always knew from the start he was never the person to come to when it's concerning sex. Now, when I got older and I actually moved out of the house, then we were able to actually have that conversation. So, and I never really asked him why he was so staunch against it then. But he usually said, well, you're an older man now. I can't treat you like a child. You are an older man, so we can talk like this. So, but never really had those situations. I think one of the biggest problems nowadays is that because of, I would say, social media and the technology and where we are moving forward, things that were once private are now being shown out to the world. We can't say, well, that's something that somebody did 5 years ago and nobody has no recollection of it. It's on Facebook. It's on somebody's phone. It's on somebody's things, you see? And what happens now, I think, I rambled on too much. So.
No. That's the truth.
Not at all.
But what I wanted to ask you as a follow-up is, so you learned about sex from school, from your sex ed or biology classes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
So you benefited greatly from that. You learned about safe sex. They taught you how to put on a condom. Did they teach you all of these things?
Yeah, they taught everything.
And this
basically.
Was this government school or private school?
Private.
Did any of you on the panel go to government school?
I went to both government and private schools, and ain't nobody taught me none of that.
There you go. They didn't teach me.
They teach you about STDs. They teach you what their names are, all of that scientific stuff. And when it comes to the practical stuff,
no.
Anissa, how did you learn about sex when you were coming of age and you started hearing these conversations? Did you go to your parents, or was it at school, or what was it?
Parents, jeez. Okay, in school, my friends talked about it. I was, like I said, I was introduced to it at a very early age, through my father, and so I was not interested in it. Because I knew about it and I knew it was a bad thing. And so it didn't interest me in my early teens until I was about maybe 17, getting ready to graduate, and, my friends are talking about it. So I kind of wanted to know, okay, what is this, this big thing that everybody's talking about, and they feel this way, and, but no one told me, no one taught me. Curiosity, which lasted 5 minutes, and 9 months later, bam, boy. So yeah, I didn't know about condoms and how it works, and none of that. None of that. Now, for my sons, I taught my sons how to put on a condom, because their father was very old-fashioned, and he said his brothers taught him, his father didn't teach him, and he didn't really know how to talk to his boys like that. But, I needed them to be safe, and so I had to show them.
Clarice, what about you? When you were coming of age, and how did you learn about sex, about condoms, about positions, about STDs, about everything?
Well, I think people my age are probably like the last to we kind of came into the internet as the internet came into itself. So I would say that it's partly the internet, partly by word of mouth, and sadly, I think the most of it was by experience itself. Like, I'd get in the situation, and then you kind of just learn as you go. Kind of thing.
It's true.
But I think that that's what happens the most, especially in a society that doesn't teach sex education, that doesn't even talk about sex, that doesn't even talk about relationships. If you hear talk about relationships in the Bahamas, especially from, I don't want to generalize, but in the situations that I've been, where I see young mothers or single mothers, the relationship talk is very negative. There is very, very little positive, constructive conversation about what a relationship is supposed to be like, except in the church. And that gives a totally warped idea of relationships and sex and dating and love and expectations and honesty. So why is it? Why is it that everybody fucking, everybody dating, but everybody talking shit about it like it's the worst thing that could possibly happen? Yeah. Why is everybody hating on themselves so much?
Because we try to... Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Anissa.
Because we try to show people, society, this image. It's what we were taught. This image, this perfect image. I don't think today's society, this millennium, they really care about this image so much. But we care about this image. I've only had, we tell our friends, we lie to our friends, our best friends, and tell them, I've only had 4 sexual partners, when we know it's 5 times that. We do it to protect our image so we can look better.
I think it also has to do with apathy, and apathy being so cool. Like nowadays, with my generation at least, it's like caring is a crime. If you care about anything, not even just about relationships, you care about anything, it's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? Ew, feelings. Ugh, you're human. Ugh.
Wow.
I hate that. It's really annoying. Like, why can't I care that somebody disrespected me? Why can't I find somebody that I like and care about them and openly show that? Like, why is that such a problem? That's something that I really don't understand. I honestly can't tell you how it came about or why it's that way. All I know is it's fucking annoying.
So then, relationships in the Bahamas, do you think they're changing? Do you think that dating in the Bahamas is changing?
I think in ways yes, and in ways no. I find that with a lot of people my age, it's like their relationship is a competition of who cares the least, and you're just in it for the number. So it's like, I don't care and he don't care, but we're together and we've been together for 5 years. Ooh, who can beat us? Kind of thing. It's like a lot of the times we forget the purpose of it all, and a lot of times we're just in relationships for the sake of being in them, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Stephen, would you agree with that? What do you think about your age group or your friends or the people that you associate with?
Because me and Clarice like literally 2 years apart.
Okay, but that's a big difference apparently, because you're talking marriage.
That's right.
But
Steven, you are in trouble.
So let's hear it. In your circles and your friends and the people that you talk to, would you agree that there's this sense of apathy in relationships, or is it totally different?
I wouldn't say it's a sense of apathy. It's a sense that there is a confusion on the difference between relationship and sex. You see, there's a confusion with the differences between relationship and sex. Some people just automatically assume because you're having sex with that person that you're automatically in a relationship with them.
I agree with that too.
You see?
People think just because they're having regular sex with each other, that equates to a relationship, and that's really not the case. You guys are just having sex.
You see?
Is it not a relationship of sorts, though? Even if it is a fuck buddy relationship or whatever kind, it's still a relationship.
Yeah, it's a relationship. But they're clearly thinking that it's more than what it is. Like, yeah, you're having sex and it's like a fuck buddy relationship, but neither you nor the next person is actually stopping and saying, oh, that's all that it really is. Or even if you do know it, they're not saying it to each other because they're thinking, oh, if I say that we're just fucking, then they're not going to want to be
sounds bad.
On a relationship.
Yeah.
So what is a relationship? In the Bahamas, what do you think is defined as a relationship? Just the word relationship, no side words to it. If you say I'm in a relationship, what do you think is the expectation?
I'm with someone. I'm with someone. We're together and we're exclusive.
That's what Akeem just said. He's like, it's exclusivity. It's just, and it goes back to the whole ownership thing. A relationship in the Bahamas is a mutual ownership where I'm claiming you, you claiming me, but we can't care about each other openly because, gosh, feelings, what are those for? Ugh. It's an exclusivity thing.
Okay, so I want to ask something. Wait, Anissa, sorry. I just want to ask something because about the exclusivity thing and relationships. There's people that are in relationships for a very long time. Now, where does sweethearting come into the relationship? And why is it only that men are the ones sweethearting?
Yeah, Akeem literally just said the same thing. He's like, he thinks it's like a status thing. Guys have to have like multiple girls, and I think it comes into the whole apathy thing as well, because if you're a guy and you're fucking like 3 or 4 girls, then it keeps your it boosts your ego, and then it also is like, if I'm fucking 3 girls, then it keeps their emotions out of it, kind of thing. That's at least how I feel.
Okay, so if I as a woman decided that my man, he's fucking 3 other women on the side and he has 3 sweethearts, so I'm gonna have myself 3 sweethearts on the side as well. That's not the same. Why is it not the same, Steven?
It's not the same because you don't have to work towards an education. You don't have to work towards getting a sexual partner. For women, I can almost guarantee you, from the time that you hit puberty, there were men coming at you, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. For the time I can speak for most men, in order for us to go and actually get the person, you have to talk, you have to make connections, you have to go out and make those things to make that woman interested in you.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Does that make it even worse then? Because if a woman can get sex so easily, then for her it's just sex. She just has to go out and find sex. A man has to actually put in all this effort on cheating on his girlfriend. Doesn't that actually make it worse then, Steven?
It doesn't make it worse. But the reason why I think most people would say, well, it's a sweethearting thing, right, is because I don't say it's a fair of being embarrassed and putting in something. It's like a fair of being embarrassed. Like I say, well, you put all of your emotions into one person. You put all your eggs into one basket, and you fail. Let's say, well, if it fails, then you would feel that there's some type of shame that comes from putting your effort into somebody and it doesn't work out. So what I would say that most people would do is that they put each egg inside milk. Maybe if it don't work out with this person, it might with this. If it don't work out with this person, it can work with this. You see, at no point in time you could say I'm 100% emotionally invested in one person.
I think it is. It's a
Can
fear
I
of intimacy too.
can I say something?
Go on.
I think Stephen has a point there. I think men have a fear of being hurt. They can't really handle that emotional pain that women go through with every relationship. And so they do not want to invest all of that emotions into one person. That is really hard for them to do. I hear my sons talking between themselves. What? You know, if this girl hurt me, boy, I don't know what'll happen. Suppose this will happen. I'm not trying to invest. Boy, I can go and deal with this girl because what? I don't want people to think what I all. That's the kind of they're afraid of that. That's what I think. They're afraid of that, and that's why they have to have these different sexual partners. Listen,
But
our
aren't
Bahamian
women
men are not that sexual. Please,
aren't
they can
women
barely
afraid
have
of
a
the
heart
same
on.
thing? Shouldn't actually be women even be more afraid, especially of these men that think this way, especially in a culture where sweethearting is the norm, especially in a culture where you're supposed to have more than one girl at a given time. Don't women actually have more to lose? Why are the ones that have more to lose the ones that find it easier to invest themselves in a relationship?
Because the first time we get hurt and we bounce back from that, and I'm good now, it makes it easier to go on to the next. I don't care if this person hurts me now. And that's where that I don't care feelings comes into play, where they try to hide or disguise that hurt by saying, please, I don't care about him. Because they've been hurt so many times, they just can't.
Okay, so Flower Child actually asked this question directly to Steven. She just tagged him. She said, don't you think that's how we as women feel? We put all our effort in, and this other chick is still worth your time. How would you respond to that, Steven?
Well, basically, I would say it like this. Because I would say there's a lot of physical investment that goes, what a man has to do in order to please somebody, to please a woman, right? Because, like I say, there are certain laws that I would say most women have. There are certain standards that most women have in order for you to even approach them. You gotta have a job. You gotta have this. You gotta have a car. You gotta have your own place. You gotta have all these things in order for you to be a viable candidate for a woman. For a man, you only need to be a woman. You only need to be a woman, you see?
Do you really think that, though, Steven? Do you really think that you only need to be a woman? Because men don't want to date a woman unless she got this kind of hair, or unless she got this kind of body, unless she got this kind of skin, unless she could talk this way, unless she could do this and better, unless she can cook this way, unless she can dress this way. So I think what you're saying is extremely unfair in terms of you only see it from the perspective of you got to have a job or you got to have a car. I mean, you got to do that any freaking ways for your life. As a woman, there's so much expectation for other things.
Especially with Bahamian men. Especially with Bahamian men. It's like you have to be like this perfect creature, but that's sexual.
Supermodel.
But not sexual at the same fucking time. And it's impossible is what it is. It's impossible.
Yep. They see these people on TV and that's who you have to be.
At the same time, you gotta shut your mouth. You gotta be able to suck dick like a porn star, but don't tell nobody about it.
No.
And then you still gotta look like the preacher's wife on Sunday.
Exactly.
You're damn right.
It's impossible.
You're damn right.
So, Steven, come on, say something, man.
Oh,
I see you're disagreeing. Voice your disagreement. That's what you're here for.
that's a very nice thing.
What? What? I'm hearing some noises. Sorry. Can you say that again?
I was talking to Akeem.
Oh. So, Steven, or actually for all the panelists, I have this question then. We can see from the man's point of view that you feel like you have so many expectations placed on you. Yes. From the women's point of view, there's so many expectations placed on us. How do we get the both genders to compromise, to realize and say, look, There's all this shit that is expected from both of us. Let's just be open and honest in our communications. How do we shift our culture and our society to say, look, it ain't all about me. This other person I'm in a relationship with has expectations on them as well. Why don't I stop fucking around and just be honest? How do we get to that point?
I think it depends on the individual. As Bahamians, and especially young Bahamians, become a little bit more educated and a little bit more self-aware, I think it will change on an individual basis to where, as a woman or as a man, you'll be like, okay, listen, I'm not here for this. I'm not going to tolerate that. This is what I'm looking for. Are you that person? And then you'll be able to be more frank with whoever you're looking at to be your partner. And it would just, I think, like I say, I think it'll be on an individual basis. I don't think that's something that can happen like in a mass, because you can only meet people on the level that you've met yourself. So it's going to have to be an inner education, or like an inner elevation, before it can change the dating pool on a larger scale.
Okay, now I want to ask this question for a little while now. How do we think that now the online dating and the dating apps play a role into dating in the Bahamas? Because now you can actually just see from their profile or just from their face. You don't actually even have to have an interaction before you decide whether you're going to talk to this person. Yeah. Do you think that dating applications are making a splash in the Bahamas?
No. No. They'll stalk your Facebook, they'll stalk your Instagram, but when I was single, I heard about Tinder, and I signed up for it, and I was like, there's nobody on here. Like, I didn't even understand what Tinder was about at the time, but I was like, you know what, let me just check it out. And every match that I was getting was from somebody in Florida.
What?
Yeah.
What about in Nassau, Steven or Anissa? Have you guys ever used dating apps?
Yeah. Yeah, we have.
No, I've never.
So, Steven, talk to me about it. Which apps did you use?
It was basically, I just tried it just because they were available. But it was all the OkCupid, Taboo, Tinder, all the rest of them. I actually had some type of rule. I actually used them once, but like I say, when if the rules still apply, when you're first meeting someone, you meet the ambassador. They tell you all the good things about them, all the things that you think they would like to hear. And when actually time goes down the road, then you realize this ain't the person who you thought it was. You see? It just goes the same. The rules still apply, but
okay. Did you have any success with the dating apps?
No.
Did you meet anybody?
Oh, no.
Okay. Now this goes out to the BFTers that are watching, because I'm really curious about whether it's just the three panelists or just your experiences in general. I want to hear in the comment thread, have you had any experiences, positive, negative, indifferent, with dating apps, and do you think that they're gonna make a splash or are making a splash in the Bahamas? And while we hear back from that, we can continue with our conversation about the other aspects of dating. Now, you said that even with dating apps, it's still about meeting this front at first and then getting to know the real person. Do you, Clarice, agree with that? Are you putting on a front in the beginning?
No. Me personally, just my personality, I'm a very blunt and upfront person. So basically, when you meet me, you're gonna get that whole thing straight through. Like, I find it really hard to hide myself because I have like foot and mouth syndrome. I say shit all the time without thinking about it, and then I'll realize days later, oh shit, what did you say? So even like down to friendships and relationships, I'm kind of like a take me as I am kind of person. But I will find that with my experiences dating other people, it is like that. Like, I'll meet them, and I'll think they're a certain way, and then I'll find out, or I'll like catch them out with their friends, or I'll like see pictures or see a video, and I'll be like, holy fuck, who is that? That's not who I know. And then I'll realize, okay, you were only showing me a certain side of yourself because you want to get in bed with me, or you want to come off a certain way. Like, why can't you just give me 100%? I appreciate that.
What did you say, Steven?
It's not good because in most cases you're not going to accept 100%.
But
How do you know that? How do you know that if you don't present it?
You don't.
why would you?
You're
why
making
would
a
you
value
waste your time
judgment.
like that?
You're making a value. Wait, Stephen, hold on. Pause, Stephen. You're making a value judgment about what a person will or won't accept before you even give them a chance to accept it. So aren't you in turn doing the same thing that you're blaming them of doing?
I'm not blaming anybody doing anything. All I'm just saying is that some people just wouldn't take a blanket accept. Because, let's say, if men are more visual creatures, right? So whatever what first thing he sees will be more things that he accepts and say, well, you know, this is something that I like. And naturally, when a man sees a person that he likes, that he's physically attracted to, the first thing that comes on his mind is sex. So now, me meeting Clarice or me meeting Vanessa for the first time, thinking I want to have sex with them, you just can't approach her and say, I want to fuck the dog shit out of you. You see?
I ain't got no dog shit in me.
Fuck the dog shit out of you. I don't care about anything else, so you're going to have to put on up front and say, hi, how you doing? How was your day? How was your day? And you really don't give a rock's ass.
No, and the thing is, I've actually had a guy do that to me before. He came in my Instagram DM. I know him from a distance, and he was like, I think you're pretty, and this is like what he said. He said, I'd like to have sexual relations with you. And I'm like, okay.
Straight to the fucking point.
I don't see you that way, but I appreciate your honesty.
He didn't hear none of that. All he heard was no.
And he and I are actually still cool. He's still on my Instagram. He's on my Snapchat. I have him on Facebook. And he hasn't harassed me. Nothing else since I told him no. I appreciate that.
Clarice, can I
Clarice,
just
that happened.
Hold on. I just want to
It
say real
happened.
quick though
I
that I
wanted
think it's
to
real
know.
cool that you're able to talk about this right in front of Hakeem, and he has no qualms about it.
No.
That's
Natalia,
great.
that
That's
happened to
great
me.
It did?
Yes, it happened to me. There was this guy. And I kind of really crushed on this guy for a while, but I knew, you know, this guy's in the church. You know, he's, a lot of people look up to him. So, I know, nothing's gonna happen. And we became friends. And one night, we were on the phone, and he said, I want you to come over. And so, I'm like, okay. I wasn't thinking along those lines because, like I said, I know this guy's a straight shooter. He really is a straight shooter. When I went over, we were having tea or cocoa or some shit, and he just came out. He said, listen, I like you, and I'm married, you know what I stand for, but I want us to have a sexual relationship.
This after how long of knowing you?
Huh?
After how long of knowing you?
We had known each other probably maybe 10, 11 months.
No, doesn't go.
We say what? We were just friends.
It doesn't go.
I didn't hear that.
The first time that he met you, and he said that, then I could understand. But like you said, after talking for so amount of time, that's to get to know that real front. It's the difference between sex and being in a relationship. Now, if the first thing that a person ever comes to you and say, listen, I ain't gonna be real about this. I want this pussy.
You know what I would tell him? Stephen, you know what I would tell him for real, for real?
What would you tell him? I want to hear now.
Someone at work just told me, on Thursday, man, listen, I've been watching you. I just want to eat this pussy, Listen, I don't even want to put it in. That's up to you. I just want to eat this pussy. So I said, for real? He said, no, seriously, I'd do anything just to eat this pussy. So I said, okay, I'm coming right back. So I wrote on a little on a little sticky because I'm at work. Ann Wilson, Royal Bank of Canada, the account number, $2,500. I gave it to him. I said, make a deposit and then we'll talk. Friday, he didn't even look at me.
I'm dead after that. shut
I'm
it
just
down.
tired of people just asking me for pussy. Seriously though? Like really?
Okay, Steven.
I can't. I'm dead after that. I have nothing to say. My brain shut off. Dead. Done.
Really?
Round of applause for Anissa because goddamn girl. Steven, what would you do? Have you ever come to somebody and said, "Look, I want to fuck"?
No?
Never. So when you, well, you're in a relationship now, but you see a fine ass girl walking past you, do you say anything? How do you
Yes.
approach it?
Yes, I really try to approach and say, well, hi, how you doing? How's your day? You know, shit like that. Shit like that. Only until they actually bring up the question of sex to where I actually approach it and say, well, you know. But one of my stances is, I know that we live in more of a technological day where you have to be WhatsApping and texting and actually going out. So I know anytime I would never mention the concept of sex until a woman does. So until a woman does. And if she does bring it up, I immediately shut that down. Either you prepared to do something or you're not. Don't bring the topic to me. Bring the topic to me. Don't ever mention it to me unless you're prepared to do something. You see?
Well,
Listen.
why should the whole expectation be on the... Okay, so Clarice is telling me that Akeem has something to say, and now I'm really curious about it.
Come in.
Come.
The fact,
No.
Akeem, you can't do this.
Yeah,
I
we
hear
wanna
you
hear
talking
it.
in the background the whole time. You might as well talk in the foreground one time.
I don't even remember what I had to say.
Yeah,
He was saying something along the lines that his experiences were totally different from Steven's. In that, and I've seen it because he shows me some of the conversations. These women come to him and they
These
say,
women?
yes, these women. They say the most outrageous things. Like his job, he goes around a lot to the different businesses, and like he'll have women, older women that come up to him, and you know, because he works out, they'll try to like feel him up, or they'll tell him he has to raise his shirt or this, that, and the next, and he's on the job while they're trying to tell him to do that. Like
I'm
I
sorry.
wanted to ask
I'm sorry that it's happening to Akeem per se, and it's never okay. And all of this, I am a very progressive person. However, I am very glad to know that it is not just women that this happens to.
Not at all. Like I've seen some of the DMs and some of the things that they come into his inbox with the same thing that they do with mine, and it's like, God damn, do you have any chill? Can you find it, please?
well, on the opposite side, I've seen situations whereby I don't know why everybody's under the assumption that because, like I say, I'm on the defense force. I travel a lot. Now, when I go out and travel, usually end up going to like certain off islands. Basically, I've been to every island in the Bahamas and some other Caribbean countries too, right? But most of the time, everybody gets see like when I actually had this situation before, right, where I tried to approach a girl and immediately was shut down. This is when I was in my cities, right? So immediately was shut down. Now, it came back a couple of months later. I was actually inside one of my uniforms, and I walked down the street. And I can exactly remember the face, I can remember the name, I can remember the person. And like, it was like a totally, completely different approach. It was, hi, how you doing? It's my number. And I was like, because you're showing yourself to have some type of status. Emotions change, you know? Like I say, he has a wholly different situation. It's different with everybody. And it's different with everybody. But, you know?
So it's weird for you if a woman approaches you to try and talk to you?
No, that's the thing. It's not weird, as we say, because like I said, the relationship that I'm in right now, that woman approached me. She approached me, you know? She called my phone like 3 o'clock in the morning and said, listen, I like you. I saw a picture of you, and this is what I'm doing right now. And I was like, okay, you know, but usually I don't get that approach. Until I'm in my best way. I done put on my best. I done put on the best uniform. I done do all this stuff. You know, I usually have to put on the front. It's reality, but I have to put on the front in order to receive some type of attention. And really, what really attracted me towards this person was the fact that she approached me. I'd never seen me, but only had seen the uniform. So you still have a little type of, there's still a little skeptic mindset behind it. But after you get to know a person, then you say, well, this person ain't really after what you think they're for. And you say, well, it was different.
But why is that? How is a person approaching you because of the uniform you're wearing any different than a man approaching a woman because she's wearing a nice dress, good makeup, and a nice weave?
Exactly.
How is that any different? If a woman goes out, pop down to the grocery store in her pajamas and her hair in a bath cap, that's who she is. You're going to approach her like that?
Nope.
No, you're approaching the image that you have of this woman in the nightclub with her heels and her sexy dress, the makeup on point, and her hair done. So, Steven, that is, you are presenting the double standard on a fucking silver platter. You're telling me then that a woman shouldn't be suspicious if you only approach her when she's looking good. So you're telling me then, you're single now. In this hypothetical scenario, you're single. And there's this woman at the grocery store, and her hair's up in a bun. She's wearing whatever regular jeans and a t-shirt, no makeup, minding her own business. You gonna approach her like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Liar.
Oh my God.
Please,
what's happening here? I think what's happening is Steven is having a little bit of a conflict between his traditional upbringing and him trying to come into the new thinking. I'm trying to help you here, Steven.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so as well.
Oh my God.
I think it's different when a situation is compared to you directly as to something that you had never thought about before. Because I can tell you personally that when I'm looking pop down, don't nobody be trying to talk to me. But if I'm looking good at Freeport, everybody's hollering left, right, and center and trying to pinch my arm. All this shit that's annoying as fuck, but you can totally tell the difference. You can totally tell the difference from when I just run to Port Lucaya for a coffee, looking like ass, just come from the gym, all sweaty. And if I'm going out at night and I'm wearing a nice dress and my hair is done, my makeup is done, and then you got to swat them away with a fly swatter. There's absolutely a difference.
I kind of can say I disagree with you on that, Natalia. Sometimes, okay, I'd say if I'm dressed up, the amount of guys that would try to hit on me would be like exponentially more. But pretty much any time of day, I don't think I get no peace. I get none.
But you know how you look. Let's be fair here and speak objectively. Even especially you, because at any given point in time you're wearing your gym clothes, and your gym clothes look good on you. I've seen you on Snapchat, girl. I've seen you on Snapchat.
But half the time, I honestly don't feel like I'm dressed up or anything like that. Like even if I am fresh out the gym, it's annoying, is what it is, and I don't want to make it seem like the pretty girl is complaining.
To be honest, it's always annoying. Always. No matter if you look good or not.
What happens? Okay, for a woman, all you have to be is a woman. You're going to get attention regardless.
Nah, Steven.
Yeah, but attention from who, though? You know?
All right.
That's the point. That's the point. You're going to get their attention regardless.
You don't want to get it from anybody, though, Steven.
It's your choice and who you select to reciprocate that attention to. But you're going to get the attention. You're going to get the attention.
I think it might just depend on the individual guy. Like, I think some guys, they go for quantity over quality.
Yeah.
They'll just holler at anything just because, hey, you never fucking know. I might just get it this time. And then I think there are some guys who are more picky. And me personally, if I was a guy, I'd rather go up to a girl if she was in jeans with her hair in a bun, because then I would I'd know the authentic her before I saw her in the heels with the makeup and the eyebrows and all of that.
Okay, now we have a comment from Marcus, and it's saying, if a gal look good, then whether she's wearing makeup or not is irrelevant.
Thank you.
But I gotta say, though, it starts with if a gal looks good. That means she already looks good.
So regardless if you're wearing the makeup or the high heels, a person is going to approach you.
Yeah, but if a gal
Listen, let me tell you.
Okay,
Let me tell
hold on.
you.
Anissa's trying to say something.
Listen, a few years ago, I had a little bit more boobs, right? And I got attention like a motherfucker from the black guys. I mean, you know, Miss Chunky with the boobs, all of that, all that shit. Now that, I don't have the boobs anymore, it's gone away, I rarely get attention from black guys. It's mostly European, mostly white guys. Approached by a black guy. They either think I'm aggressive or, we think we thought you were that type who's unapproachable, that kind of thing. I hate that shit.
Okay, now that you've brought in types, let's just say this. Is there a type in the Bahamas? A type of man, the ideal man, a type of woman, the ideal woman? And what is it? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Steven,
I'm sure you want to answer that.
Steven, what's the ideal type in the Bahamas of a woman?
I wouldn't say, it kind of varies from man to woman. Okay? I wouldn't say there's a type as much as there's a limit.
Wow.
There's a standard in which a man will not go. He'll go everything, he'll date every woman, or at least fuck every woman, up to a point. Okay? I'll date a skinny woman, medium sized, and chunky, but if she's overly obese, then I say no. And I think a limit to say, well, I do everything up until this point. When you hit that level, that's when they say no. You see? So I don't really think there's a type that people travel. Maybe for women, there's a type of man that they would say, well, I need this man to be like man. For sexual only, there's a limit. There's a limit as opposed to a type.
I just want to specify that I'm talking about physical type because we already talked about the emotional or personality aspect.
When it comes to a physical type, you could be skinny, and a person will take that.
Yes. No, but Steven, I'm not talking about who you will fuck. You've already specified that you will fuck any woman, basically. We understand that. What I'm saying is, what is the ideal for you? Let's just talk about you. Let's not talk about in general right now. If you could build a woman from scratch, right? The perfect, sexiest, most attractive woman for you would be what?
Oh, I've never even been asked this question before, so I've never.
Okay, then let's go through categories. Is she tall or is she short?
Short.
Okay. Does she have big tits, medium tits, small tits?
Jesus Christ. Now that you even asked me this, it caused me to ponder even more.
Come on. Is she solid or is she fit or is she skinny?
Like I keep saying this again. I usually say one of my philosophy, not my philosophy, but the general consensus is that art imitates life. And one of the biggest parts of the music, I think, the song I Ain't Got No Type, that reflects life. She could be anything. As long as she's bad, come on, man.
What is bad? What do you mean as long as she's bad?
As long as she possesses the qualities that you would like in a person.
Yes, but
an obese woman can do the same thing.
Hold on, you've already said yourself that you need to get to that point to find out their qualities. First, we're talking about the physical. First, we're talking about whether you approach her or not. So for you, what looks good? Actually, we are running out of time. So I want to ask this question to the women because Steven got a little bit lost there. Anissa and Clarice, you're single in this hypothetical world. Tell me the sexiest man that you can imagine. I know this might put Clarice in a little bit of a weird situation. I want to hear it.
Actually, for me, it would be either one of two types.
Okay, let's hear it.
I've found that, in general, I've always been attracted to men with strong jawlines.
Okay.
I don't know why. Always been attracted to taller guys. I've never been attracted to white guys. I've never dated a white guy. That's just, I don't even know. Maybe it's because of the society that I've grown up in. I don't know. I've always preferred guys that were a little bit more muscular and either light-skinned or really dark.
Okay. What about you, Anissa? When we're talking about men, what do you find attractive?
I prefer a taller man. I'm 5'6.5", so I like a man taller. I prefer bright men. I don't prefer dark men at all. I've dated white men. I prefer white men more than black men, honestly. But I would do a light-skinned, bright, white-skinned guy. I don't really like the muscles. I don't really like the six-pack. If it can be nice and smooth and just not too much, I like that. I don't like a belly at all. I don't like that kind of thing. And I don't really like hair.
Okay.
So he has to be able to manscape.
I see a little bit of commonality between you and Clarice. Would you say that there is a certain kind of guy that is definitely more attractive in general to Bahamian women?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Akeem.
Oh,
wouldn't you agree that in the Bahamas, Akeem gets a lot of attention?
Yeah, he does.
Oh, this is talking.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, like, there is certainly types that are more popular, and that leads me to the last question because we're really running out of time. From Michael Peter, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. So for the women on the panel, if you are single and you see a man that you think looks good, would you approach him? I will personally answer and say, hell yeah. If I see that this man looks like what I think I like and we're in a situation where it's acceptable, I'm not going to do it in a business meeting and I'm not going to do it at a workplace, but if we're in a social situation, I would go and strike up a conversation. What about you ladies?
I was actually in the process of typing my answer to him. Me, personally, when it comes to dating, I'm a little bit more demure and not as aggressive as I am on a regular day-to-day basis. So I think it would depend on the vibe that I get from that guy. I'd probably get to know him more before I decided to actually say, hey, I like you, than to just go up to a random stranger and be like, do you want to have coffee or something like that?
Well, that's what we're saying. We're not saying like immediately ask them out on a date. It's just the approach, like go and talk to them or say hi or whatever.
I'd probably feel them out first to see if they were, you know, if there was any kind of cool thing. Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably feel them out first a little before I actually said anything.
Okay, and what about you? What about you, Anissa?
For me, if I see a guy and I like him, yeah, I would ask him out for coffee. But it depends on, yeah, I would go up to him, hi, how are you? I'd say my name. And if I get a standoffish kind of vibe, then I wouldn't ask. But if I do get a kind of interesting vibe, I would ask. I realize that I'm my own worst enemy. I normally go for people that's not good for me. So if you pursue me, I prefer that. I prefer to be pursued. I don't like really being the pursuer because then I lose interest quick as well.
Okay. So on that note, I hope we've answered your question, Michael, and we've had a lovely hour and a half of discussion about everything, sex, love, dating, lots of sex, lots of learning about sex and talking about sex with your parents and kids and society in general. I think it's been great. I want to thank our panelists very much for their very open and honest conversation. I want to thank our unofficial panelist, Akeem, for giving us a little bit of his input. Much appreciated. I want to thank the viewers at BFT, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.